should I have
Welcome to Media Path. I'm Fritz Coleman.
And I am Louise Palanker.
You know, here at Media Path, it's our job to direct your attention to good viewing, good listening, good reading. We help you cut through the clutter and get right to the quality content. We also have some spectacular guests like we do today. Harry Elston is with us, one of the founders of a powerhouse late 60s group, Friends of Distinction. He's had a really interesting history in the business, as have the other members of the group. We're going to ask him all about it in just a few minutes. Weezy, what do you have for us?
So I've been watching some TV. I recommend that. Fritz, I know you saw this last night, so we're going to talk about it. It's called The Woman in the Window. It stars Amy Adams, Julianne Moore, Gary Oldman, and Wyatt Russell, who may be the child of Kirk Russell. It's entirely possible. It's a psychological thriller a la Rear Window. Just replace Jimmy Stewart's wheelchair with Amy Adams' agoraphobia. She witnesses something horrific in the apartment across the way, and because she's battling mental health issues and balancing meds, no one believes her, which is not good for your mental health. The dialogue is fun and fast. The camera work and the set decoration are rich and delicious. This is an adaptation of A.J. Finn's 2018 novel. Don't expect perfection. A lot went on to get this film made and presented to you on Netflix during the pandemic, but it's packed with scary twists and pillow-hugging turns, and I really enjoyed it. You saw it too, Fritz.
Yeah, and it's an acting tour de force for Amy Adams. She was unbelievable and great, momentary appearances by guest stars. I'm not a huge fan of this kind of movie. It was like Rear Window with lithium. and I love the original by Alfred Hitchcock. As a matter of fact, there's sort of an homage to it. They do a couple of freeze frames of Jimmy Stewart with a horrible reaction on his face. But it was a seedier pants film from beginning to end, if you like that kind of movie.
There's lots of homage and there's lots of sort of foreshadowing, where it's like, oh, I think that's going to factor in later on.
The kid was fantastic.
The kid was great. Yeah.
Before you understand which side of the
Hush. The Russell boy is good.
Yeah.
You're going to enjoy it.
Right.
It's great.
Well, I'm going to talk about the Underground Railroad. This is on Prime Video. This is a limited series, 10 episodes, based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel by Colson, Whitehead. I listened to the book on tape, which didn't do it any justice. The Underground Railroad was a metaphor for the series of escape routes, safe houses, set up by anti-slavery collaborators that helped enslaved people escape the slave states of the South up to the North. The story that was most recently done that told this story, but more compact, was Harriet, with Harriet Tubman. But this story uses what's called magic realism in that it describes a real railroad with tracks and stations built underground that's sort of a fantasy, which was the route for the enslaved people to find their freedom. Each of the 10 episodes describes a different struggle borne by enslaved people. Some that are familiar to us from historical stories, but some stories are deeper and more profound about the survival and humanity of blacks in the South pre-Civil War. It's directed by Barry Jenkins, who did Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk. This is a beautiful experience from start to finish. Breathtaking cinematography, skilled acting from every character, especially the lead, the Cora Randall character played by Thuso Mbedu. This is heartbreaking. Also, Aaron Pierre, who plays the strong and charismatic Caesar, and William Jackson as Royal. But a special shout out to Joel Edgerton, both disturbing and mesmerizing as the slave hunter Ridgway. This is a gifted actor, and this may be, honestly, one of his most powerful roles yet. I love this series because it goes deeper than what is commonly known about the slave experience. I really recommend it.
Okay, that's really... It's hard stuff for me to watch, but you've kind of compelled me that it's like my duty. I watched a movie on the Netflix. Do you get the Netflix, Fritz? Yeah, you do get it. Okay.
I do.
It's called Concrete Cowboy. It's starring Idris Elba, Caleb McLaughlin, and Jarrell Jerome. A rebellious teen is sent to live with his estranged father for the summer, and you're saying, yeah. And I'm saying, hold up. His father, who lives with a horse in his apartment. And yes, of course, the angry kid finds kinship in the eyes of a lost and frightened animal. You were right about that. But this film depicts a tight-knit Philadelphia community of black cowboys who keep and ride horses downtown. downtown horses and cowboys are in the movie. And it's shot so beautifully. Every frame is a wonder, especially the ones with Idris Elba. He is pretty. A couple of years ago, I saw a documentary at the Santa Barbara Film Festival about downtown cowboys in Los Angeles called Fire on the Hill. And they brought the cowboys to the screening.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe even a horse. Much like what is depicted in Concrete Cowboy's Philadelphia neighborhood, for much of the 20th century, South Central LA was an agricultural boomtown filled with ranchers, farmers, and equestrians. Since the city's establishment, Compton and the surrounding neighborhoods have always had a culture of cowboys. This culture has all but disappeared now in a wash of land-hungry developers, apathetic politicians, and subsequent gang activity. Fire on the Hill tells the story of the South Central and Compton cowboys and the last strongholds that they hold, a horse stable known as The Hill that was mysteriously set on fire back in 2012. This documentary is the story of 3 of those cowboys and their fight to live out their vision of the West.
Wow, that is a piece of history I didn't know. That's
no,
awesome.
Exactly. So if you watch the Concrete Cowboys and you think like this is just mythical, it actually isn't. And it's a lot of...
Great suggestion.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang on to Netflix for a minute.
Okay.
This is a doc. It's called Money Explained. It's a limited documentary series. I think there are 4 episodes. I am clueless about all things money. I trust other people to steer me in the right direction with my money and just pray that they have my best interest at heart. This series is a fantastic primer about some basic issues concerning money. What I need is a 9th grade level explanation of all things fiscal, and this is it. There's an episode about credit cards, how they work, how not to get screwed. Another episode about one of our most important current discussions, student loan debt. It's fascinating. There's a separate issue about gambling. There's one about retirement and saving and not being screwed in the retirement savings area. Each episode explains how things work and suggests how not to stay in trouble. It uses very famous narrators like Edie Falco from The Sopranos and Nurses. It's got just enough snark to keep your attention. And there's lots of valuable information. I think it ought to be required viewing for high school students. It was really well done.
Well, I have this fiscal question. Does it teach you whether or not you should spend money on Netflix to teach you about money?
You can plug that into the credit card discussion.
Because that should be part of the core curriculum.
And if you watch as much as we do, as much as the student loan debt discussion.
It starts to pay for itself.
All right, we have a great guest today. We're so happy to have Harry Elston with us. Harry was one of the founding members of the hugely successful late 60s hit group Friends of Distinction. They had hits on both the pop and R&B charts like Grazing in the Grass, Lover Let Me Be Lonely, Going in Circles. They recorded and performed basically from 1968 to 1975, and there's a lot of other great music history connected with the members of Friends of Distinction that we're going to talk about. Harry, we're so happy to talk to you. How are you?
Pleasure seeing y'all. I hadn't heard about your show until they told me about it, but I knew you, Fritz. I didn't know Miss Lady there.
Well, she's a monster with a great career in radio back when you guys were hits and
Is that right?
all kinds of stuff. Yep.
No, I was a child.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. That's right.
But I was rocking out to WKBW, Buffalo, New York, Friends of Distinction. That was me.
Buffalo. I got some friends in Buffalo. Yeah.
I worked at WKBW from 1976 to 1980. I did afternoon drive in that 50,000-watt clear channel monster.
But I want to ask you a specific question about Grazing in the Grass, because it seems to me that you wrote the most iconically 60s lyrics in the history of 60s lyrics. Grazing in the Grass, It's a Gas, Baby, Can You Dig It? So did you create this groovy lingo, or were you reflecting the language of the times?
Both. I was kind of, I was right in the mix. Drug, sex, and rock and roll. I was right in the middle.
I can dig it.
But tell that story about driving. You were on the road and you're in a bus and you're driving by cows and you say, what a great way to live, just grazing in the grass out there. Or was that a phony story you made up to not talk about marijuana?
Oh, that's the kind of grass. I'm just now getting this, Harry.
Well, it depends. Back in the day, I had a lot of grazing in the grass experiences. I have to tell you one day, but it's all connected. It's all connected.
Okay.
It's like I was on tour with Ray Charles. We had a group called the High Fives, And in that group, it was Marilyn McCoo and Lamont McLemore of the Fifth Dimension. And we'd be traveling with Ray, and I would see these cows, eating and stuff coming out of the. Can I talk? How freely can I talk?
You can
you can say the sh.
Okay, so the cows eating, grazing, and shitting.
Sure.
And
It's a full day.
That's kind of natural, huh?
Yep.
But anyway, that's where it kept sticking in my mind, sticking in my brain. So when we disbanded a couple of years later, and I was writing a song and Grazing in the Grass, by Hugh Masekela.
Right.
And I just took to his melody and stuff, the trumpet part, and I put words to it. But in the back of my mind, it was these cows eating and shitting on the road. So I went and I recorded the song, but I called it Flaking in the Grass.
Okay.
Remember when people used to say you flake?
Yeah.
And I had Flaking in the Grass, and I brought it back, and they, well, get out of here with that stuff. I said, yeah, okay. I said, well, can I use the same Grazing in the Grass words? They say, sure. I used that, and everything was a gold record since then.
Let me ask you this. I mean, Hugh Masekela had a hit record with the instrumental. Was that the first time that a second hit record had been made by somebody writing lyrics to a pre-existing hit? I can't think of another example.
I heard, but I can't think, and not as you guys can, but I can't think of another artist that,
maybe
I might be the only one.
Summer Place, the Letterman.
Oh, there we go. That's a good.
Maybe.
What is it?
Was that an instrumental first?
Wasn't it? There's a summer place. Wasn't it? No?
Yeah, but was it the instrumental first?
I thought so. Maybe Henry Mancini, or it was from a movie. I don't know. Maybe I have the wrong thing. But also like things like Born Free or Moon River, Henry Mancini and then Andy Williams.
River.
But were they hits?
A lot of those songs, when they came out, they had lyrics, to them.
Yeah.
Grazing was we just had the instrumental, and then I looked up and wrote some words.
Boy, and what a record, what a smash that is.
Yeah.
That gets you moving.
It was the attitude of the time too.
Yeah.
Let's go back before Friends, Harry. You were even before the Hi-Fis. You were a backup singer for Ray Charles, and then just for historical purposes, you and Floyd Butler started your own group called the Hi-Fis, and then you started opening for Ray. And out of the Hi-Fis came Marilyn McCoo, as you mentioned, and Lamont McLemore, who went on to start the Fifth Dimension. So it's a great tree of growth there. Talk about the Ray Charles experience. I opened for Ray Charles at the Universal Amphitheater one time, and I went to get my picture taken with Ray, and I got tackled by 4 security guys who said, nobody gets their picture taken with Mr. Charles. I said, how could he tell? I'm just going to stand there and get my picture taken.
Wow.
And they wouldn't let me get near him. It was the biggest honor of my life. But I heard that, and I heard this from members of the Tonight Show band that played with him, he was a stickler for perfection. His hearing was so finely tuned because of his blindness, he could pick out somebody that was a quarter note off and would find you and jump on your case during rehearsals. It was not easy, right?
That is definitely true. That is so true. Can you imagine? Now, we were like, I don't know, maybe I was 19 or 20. Marilyn was about 17. Lamont was a little older than me. But us as teenagers, and Ray heard, we used to sing around LA at the jazz clubs, Mr. Conton's on the Strip, and all, and then after they had, when an act would come to town, like Miles Davis, or they would all play at the Adams West, over in the hood, and we sang jazz, so we were always on the bill there. So that's where I met everybody. But now Ray heard about us, and we went down and we had the audition. We didn't, it was Mr. Ray Charles. Heck, we went in there, we tore it up, and he hired us right then and there.
Wow. And
we were on the road a couple of years with Ray. Our first recording was on his label, Tangerine label, a song called Lonesome Mood, a jazz song. So then we traveled with Ray. We opened the show, crashed a couple of times in the plane and stuff like that. But everything was
wow. He wasn't flying it, was he?
Yes. No, act seriously. You had the pilot, Ray, and the co-pilot. Ray sat in the middle. I guess he was the engineer, but I wouldn't feel comfortable unless Ray was up there because he knew what he was doing. Like
Right.
you were saying, Fritz, he's a genius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could see him up there in the front, click, 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 click. And then he would when he got on the plane, back in the day when we were Ray was on heroin, straight up, So he'd walk on that plane, he said, he hit his leg. Let's get this mother sucker off the ground.
Oh my God.
Ray was funny.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's so cool. So then what happened from there?
Well, from there, we toured a little bit more. And then we had what I like to call them internal differences,
Right.
groups.
It happens.
So,
yeah.
So Floyd took Lamont's place. And then we had another girl who took Marilyn's place. And, we did a little work, but not too much. Then we just disbanded. But I lived on a street called 9th Avenue in Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
And Ron Townsend, the big guy in the Fifth Dimension, lived on 11th Avenue.
Okay.
And we were friends, but I would see them going over there. I said, what the hell are they doing? I come to find out that, hey, they were putting a group together. So Floyd and I said, well, hey, let's do our thing. So we put a group together, and we became the Friends of Distinction. They became the Fifth Dimension, and we're still friends to this day.
Wow.
The original group was you, Floyd, Jessica Cleaves, Barbara Jean Love, and then when
Yes.
Barbara left to have a baby, Charlene Gibson came in.
Charlene came in and sang Love Will Let Me Be Lonely. Yep.
And that was the follow-up hit to Grazing at a time when you guys thought, who knows if we're going to survive the leaving of Barbara. Charlene came in and knocked it out of the park with her second hit.
Well, no, actually, the second hit was Going in Circles. Floyd.
Oh,
And then Charlene.
okay.
But Charlene was a godsend because she could sing her butt off.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
like some songs she would do in one take. And then Jessica, after Jessica left the Friends, she went with Earth, Wind, and Fire. After she left Earth, Wind, and Fire, she went to George Clinton Parliament Funkadelic. And she passed away in 2014, and Floyd passed away in 1990.
Wow.
So Barbara Love, Charlene, and I, the remaining members.
So you guys were all kind of parts of sort of the great artists that sprang out of the Southern California area.
Yep, exactly. And it was because they had the what is it, the Wrecking Crew.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, we had a Wrecking Crew in California,
Mm-hmm.
and Jim Gordon and all the the Crusaders. They used to play on all our records and stuff. So it was great. We were the Wrecking Crew in LA back in the day.
Mm-hmm. And now what would go on after the shows? Because I'm picturing that you guys are all kind of like a tight unit and that you're all friends of friends and all dating each other. Describe what would go on after the shows.
Well, Jim Brown was our manager, Fritz.
Right.
That in itself is a fantastic story. Talk about how that happened.
Jim Brown, let's see. Fritz, you might know this guy. His name was Booker Griffin. That name ring a bell?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, anyway, he was on KGFJ. He was a jock, and he was my roommate. But he knew Jim. So Jim was on the verge of retiring from football, and he'd come to LA and he'd take us all to the Pro Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a beauty pageant called Miss Bronze California
Right.
that we sang there. But Lamont was a photographer, the house photographer. So after the beauty pageant, the party was at our house.
Whoa.
Need I say more?
Okay.
Wow.
I think you need to say more.
Okay. And then that's where I got to be good friends with Jim. As a matter of fact, Jim brought my first Cadillac. So he says, what are you doing, man? What are you gonna do with yourself? I said, well, I'm trying to put this group together. He said, you trying to do it? I said, yeah. I said, I need a little help. He said, well, I'll help you. You get it together and you come see me. I got it together. Went and saw Jim. We paid our arranger $50 a week, and we rehearsed for maybe 8 months. Went to remember the Daisy Club, Fritz?
Yes.
Went to the Daisy, did a showcase at the Daisy, and the rest is history.
Well, it was interesting because Jim Brown was finishing his football career. He went into show business. He ended up managing you and managing Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Right.
And there's a great story because this is so different than the way the music business is now. Jim Brown got you these great showcases, And you had an
Yeah.
embarrassment of riches. You had many record companies that wanted to sign you. You had to go around town and decide which one you wanted to take, which is not the way it happens now, I'll tell you that.
I know. It was so weird. And I knew a little bit about the business, but the next day I didn't look. They said, Harry, you got to go talk to these people. I said, what? And talking to these record companies, I got in my mode, my cool mode, like I knew what I was talking about. And but when we got to, I don't remember all the record companies, but I remember RCA Records, John Flores, and he was a laid back, young kind of a cat, and I got a good vibe with him, so we chose RCA, and we our whole career was on RCA Records. So we did okay. We made them some money.
Now, you had one group that did not get along so well, and then you put together another group. What are the secrets that you've learned to having a healthy group camaraderie and having every voice be valued? Or, what have you learned about how everyone can feel at home and a significant member of a group? It's complicated, isn't it?
No. That's a as they say on TV, that's a wonderful question. Matter of fact, I got that from Joe Biden.
Okay.
But no, it was like, fortunately, when your name hit records, well, okay, we had Grazing in the Grass. I performed that one. Floyd sang Lover, Going in Circles. Charlene sang Lover, Let Me Be Lonely. And Jessica sang a song called I Really Hope You Do. And you might remember this song. It was on KJLH Great Day. And Barbara sang that. Mm-hmm. So everybody had a hit song to sing. Mm-hmm. So I would just say, you sing this one, you sing that one, you sing that. And that took care of the ego thing. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And because, when they sang it, the audience knew the song, so that, they felt good about it.
Right.
And so that's how we handled that. And it was really cool because we had no egos. I don't know why, but there was no ego tripping in this group.
So it's about, they were really distinctive friends.
Exactly. Very good. Very good.
As a matter of fact, that was the name of the band before somebody changed it to Friends of Distinction. It was called the Distinctive Friends. Am I right, Harry?
Yes, sir. Fritz is doing his thing.
Wow. Yeah, he studies
Who
up
was
for
the
these.
person that decided to change it to Friends of Distinction?
Barbara. I came up with Distinctive Friends, and she said we should try Friends of Distinction. I said, you got it, baby. And that's how it went down.
Yeah, you were talking about RCA Records, and when you got to the end of your string of hits and things started to taper off a little bit, it was a conundrum for RCA because, as you have said, they didn't have that many black acts, and they really didn't know how to market black acts, and you think that's why things began to soften up for you a little bit after 75.
Yeah, it was like. And then see the pop department and the R&B department, they would have fights, because we had pop records and R&B records, and we were caught in the middle of it. But and then they didn't know how to market, a crossover group like we were at that particular time. There wasn't a whole lot of crossover groups. The Fifth did it, And Ray and established artists like that, but new and up and coming, they didn't know exactly what to do. I mean, they were good. They were nice people, and they took care of us. Sent us on 6-week tours and all that stuff, and took care of us. But like I said, there were internal differences in RCA in terms of what records we want to put out, and we got caught up kind of in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
That happens. But you did a lot of work that was important in the community. Tell us about the Mavericks Flat.
Mavericks Flat. You got any of you guys ever been there?
I have not.
Mavericks Flat it's still there as a matter of fact, but it was like the Apollo, West Coast Apollo. All kind of groups would come there and perform, and Jim was instrumental. And Jim put some money in the Mavericks Flat, but I was kind of like I would do everything. When the Mavericks opened, I was a limo driver for the Temptations.
Yeah, I want to get back to that because I want to know if you saw what I saw in Ain't Too Proud to Beg.
No.
Well, there's a lot that went on with that group.
I know a lot went on, but I Ain't Too Proud to Beg. I didn't.
Not the song, the Broadway show. Broadway show has everything, the whole story. And I've read Otis's book. So, when we talk about group dynamics and how it's difficult to keep a talented, creative people together and cohesive, their story is a good example of that.
Wow. And when I was the limo driver, it was the original guys. I mean, with David and Eddie and Paul, Otis, and that's a whole nother story. I'll tell you about that one day. But yeah, but I got along good with those guys. And then one day they saw me somewhere, and they said, "You on stage, man?" I said, "Yeah." So we had a good time. And then I remember when Blue got shot in the stomach up on Doheny.
Oh.
The bass singer.
Okay.
Melvin Franklin.
Right.
We call him Blue.
Right.
But Blue he never got over that gunshot wound in his stomach. And I would go to they come to Vegas and I come back, see the show, and I could see him going down, and a few days later he was gone. Yeah. So I got some history with them.
Well, they were kind of like the Friends. Everybody had a hit record. I mean, what I mean is David had hit records, Eddie had hit records, and then Paul Williams, everybody had it at a different time.
Yeah, but according to Otis's book, Otis is the only one who kept everything together.
Yes.
Everyone else was sort of problematic, and he was kind of the glue. And that was like trying to keep plates spinning, on the Sullivan Show.
Yep. And then with Paul, with his problems, I didn't know about that till I saw the movie. But hey, I never saw nothing, and they didn't, so I couldn't say nothing.
Understood. Now tell us about NIEU.
NIEU, that stood for Negro Industrial and Economic Union. That's Jim's organization. That's what Jim wanted to do when he retired from football. Now, aside from the Mavericks, the Mavericks flat, that was entertainment, if you could understand that, Fritzy. we had the most beautiful girls after the fashion show, and then Mavericks was a monster. I mean, you would see Marlon Brando, you would see Kareem, you see Mike Warren, all kind of actors and actresses, Gene Seberg, Tony Curtis.
Yeah, where
was the Mavericks?
Crenshaw.
Oh.
Okay. Cool.
You know, Crenshaw and Stockton were Magic Johnson Theater in that area, right down the street from Baldwin Hills. It's still there. It's on Crenshaw. Yeah.
So it was all going on there, right?
Oh, it was definitely going on at Mavericks Flat, where they call it Mavericks Flat, where it's at. It was started by a guy named John Daniels. John made some movies and stuff, and he starred in the movies, but he was the brain thrust behind, Mavericks Flat, and he was also a friend of Booker Griffin's, and Booker was the guy who knew Jim Brown, and so Booker brought Jim on the scene and hooked us all up, and we went from there.
Let me ask you something. You brought it up earlier. The West Adams area was, as you called it, the hood, and that whole series of jazz clubs there and performance venues, and that was a predominantly black neighborhood, but they had jazz clubs and entertainment venues down there. And isn't it like New York and like the Cotton Club in Harlem? They drew white audiences. So it was, even though we were at a time of a lot of unrest in the 50s and 60s, that was a place where white and black audiences could mix. Is that right?
That's definitely this. Yep. I mean, you figure like this, if Dizzy Gillespie or I don't know, Miles Davis, anybody would come to town to play, they would play, Hermosa Beach, the Lighthouse, and different various clubs, the It Club, but they would always come to the Adams West after hours, and it opened at 2:00. So that you see all kinds of people from different walks of life and different venues what they were coming from. They would come there and hang out at the place you're talking about. It was called the Adams West, and then they changed it to the Kabuki Theater.
When you say 2:00, are you talking about 2:00 a.m.?
Yes.
And that's when it opened?
That's when it opened. Yeah, after the other clubs closed.
Wow.
Okay, and then so how early, shall I say, did you go?
We might stay to 6:00 that morning.
And then when would you sleep? I'm
When we
asking
got
as your
home.
mother.
See, we would do a show, Well, we had to do our little show out on the strip at Mr. Conton's, and then we would come to Adams West. So we were up 24/7, and we go home and sleep.
Did you do what the jazz players do, where you do your show, the show you're being paid for, and then show up at somebody else's gig and sing there for a while and jam with them? And I just wish I was around for that era of the music business.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Would you jam with a lot of acts there that you weren't in their act and they weren't in your act, but you'd get on stage together and just see what happened?
No, not really, because it was structured, because they had a time limit, and then the guys who were on the show, they had played their 2 sets at another club, so they did their little 15, 20 minutes, and and then they went home. But it was like you could all the people that you could see there. I mean, golly, big bands, Count Basie. Oh man, it was great.
So it was a mix of generations.
Yes. And we were blessed. I was thinking the other day, I had played with Count Basie.
Oof.
Wow.
Did a show with you hear that commercial? With Watts 103rd Street Rhythm Band. Express yourself.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's Charles Wright and Watts 103rd Street Rhythm Band.
Yep.
We did a concert with Watts, Count Basie and the Friends. Oh, that was I'll always remember that.
Wow.
But we were. I mean, we used to do Laura Nyro, Ricky Nelson, Kenny Rogers, all those. We did.
Kenny was an RCA act too. Did RCA send a lot of their acts out together?
Yes. Let's see, the Guess Who.
Oh yeah, Burton
Guess Who,
Cummings.
John Denver.
Yeah,
and a few other RCA acts that we would tour with.
that's cool. So
Well, your music had legs beyond the Friends too. For instance, "Going in Circles" was covered by Isaac Hayes, the Gap Band, Luther Vandross, and it just kind of keeps the memory alive down through the ages. There's also an interesting story. You guys were going to get back together in 1990, but of course Floyd passed away.
Right.
And one of the songs you had written for your reunion was called "Check It Out," which turned out to be a great hit for Tavares, which was one of the premier bands of the disco era.
Yeah, Floyd. Remember LTD, the group called LTD?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Floyd and Billy Osborne of LTD wrote "Check It Out," and Tavares covered it. But we were blessed. I mean, like a lot of people did "Grazing in the Grass." A lot of people did "Circles." A lot of people did "Love Will Let Me Be Lonely." And then we had this song called "When a Little Love Began to Die." And it was a big hit in Japan. I didn't know that. my wife's from Japan, and I had to show her, But
you need some
we were
cred with the wife.
yeah. She said, "Who?"
She says, sing a little. How does it go?
She knew the Osmonds. She knew the Osmonds, but she didn't know my group.
Yeah, they know the Osmonds.
Did you do a lot of international traveling when you guys were in the midst of your hits?
Yeah, we did some. We we did real good in the Philippines.
Wow.
Yeah, the Filipino people can get down and sing. Mm-hmm. And we had a lot of hit records over there. And we went to where do you go to? Italy, Greece, of course, England and stuff like that. We did a little international traveling.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I look back at the 60s, and for lots of reasons, it was, I think, a more interesting musical time because stuff could be more experimental. On the radical side, the raw side, you had Jimi Hendrix, which expanded blues-oriented rock and roll to its end point. And then you had the Friends of Distinction, and you had the Fifth Dimension, which had these beautiful, almost orchestral songs that were so sophisticated in their composition and beautiful lyrics. I don't know that the music that you did would find traction today like it did back then. There's some beautiful orchestrations in your music that seemed bigger than anything we have now.
Well, fortunately, when you write a song, it's a little different today than it was back in the day. But I didn't even know I had royalties from from Grazing in the Grass.
Oh my!
The first check I got, I went out and bought a Bentley.
There you go.
But it was a lot different. It was a lot different back then. And now they say that period, that era, was like in terms of United States music transition, that was very, very instrumental to 60s and 70s music. So and then the cool thing about it, here comes the Grammys. And we didn't know nothing about no Grammys, you know. And I'm look up and we're nominated. But we're nominated with the Beatles, the Stones, the Fifth Dimension.
Really?
You know, we did okay. I can't complain because Grazing did pretty good. It was like I got a lot of awards for Grazing as the most performed song and stuff like that. So I ain't mad. God has been good to me.
Yeah, I like your attitude. Just be grateful, and Grazing is just iconic. That song is iconic, and I'm wondering because I love listening to the harmonies, and clearly you guys put a lot of thought into the harmonies. Did you grow up? Were you a harmony fan growing up?
Yeah. Growing up, I grew up in San Diego, and I went to Lincoln High School and Point Loma High School, and we had an octet at Point Loma. We had an octet, and we would sing a cappella, and classical songs, and 8-part harmonies. So that's where I got my ear from, and then I was a big fan of the Four Freshmen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ross Barber, the tenor. That's what I loved. I could tell his voice. I saw him one day somewhere down south. I went to see the show, but and then doo-wopping at school. Everybody had a group, and there was this song called "Night Out." Ooh, night out. What did I do? I changed the words to it, and it was a hit. The girls was all over me. So that's like I said, you can do that. That's pretty cool, But I did grow up doo-wopping, singing octet, and with the groups. So that's where I got my ear from.
What about church? Church start?
Oh yeah,
Gospel
definitely
harmonies.
church. Definitely church. My daddy played a little keyboard. So when you go to church, you see the deacon and the pastor. Everybody's so refined and stuff. Mm-hmm. But they would come to my house, my daddy's house.
Let it fly.
And the deacon over there drinking a beer.
Uh-oh.
Did you see him drinking that beer?
Whoa. That's like seeing your teacher in the supermarket. You're just like, wait, I didn't know that you could exist outside of school, but okay. So both your folks were musical though, right, Harry?
Well, my mom, just my dad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But my brother had a song out called "Hey Senorita." Back in the day, he had a hit record.
Really?
My sister could sing. So, we had some internal talent,
Yeah. So when you would get into the studio, would you work closely with the producer?
Oh, sure. See, we had, like I said, John Flores was a producer, and then John was from Phoenix, and he had a good friend. His name was Ray Cork Jr. And Ray was an arranger. Now figure this: we go and we rehearse for 9 months. We do this demo on Grazing in the Grass. Mm-hmm. Then we hook up with RCA. We'd never met John Flores. We never met Ray Cork Jr. So we didn't know what the hell they could do. They came in. Ray was a beautiful arranger. John was a beautiful producer. And then we had internal people in our group too. Clarence McDonald, Rex Middleton, and so we had internal, so they could relate. And it made it a lot easier. But we still didn't know how the orchestration would come out. But we walked in the studio. Now you figure this, I'm used to going in the studio, maybe 5 or 6 people in there. We walked in there, it was 100 people.
Really?
with strings and cellos and basses and stuff.
Whoa.
Oh my God. So we did our, we sang what they call a scratch track. So they would get a feel for your music. But we were still nervous, with all those people in there and 100 people, musicians and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
This won't mean anything to anybody outside of Los Angeles, but this is my own historical curiosity. Where did you record that first the Grazing in the first RCA sessions in town?
Sunset and Vine. No, Sunset and Cahuenga.
Mm-hmm.
At the RCA building, 80s. I forget the address.
It's
Right,
the same building.
across from the theater.
Right.
The Dome Theater.
It just says BMG now, but it's the same building.
Same building. Yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about the choreography because you guys are up on YouTube and you guys would move. So
Yep.
Tell us about the thought that went into that presentation.
Well, in terms of the choreography, we were geared to Vegas when we first came out during the audition, the showcase at the Daisy. A lot of buyers from Vegas were there, so we had to think Vegas, and but we had to hire choreographers. The choreographers made a lot of money on us because we would practice here. Then when you go to Vegas to open the show, they got to go in there to make sure everything is cool, and you got to pay, hotel salary and airfare and all that kind of stuff. But so we were all geared for Vegas. When we went to Vegas, we were there with Steve Allen and Jane Meadows.
Oh, cool.
We hung with them. We went to a club in Vancouver. I can't think of it right now, but we showcased for 30 days. We worked there, to iron out the kinks. And then we went to Flamingo. We were there for 30 days, and we played the Flamingo, Caesar's Palace, all of the clubs. We played in Vegas.
Talk about a time where you got to meet an idol, someone that you had admired growing up.
I can say anything, right? I'm cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. My idol was Miles Davis.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Miles Davis, and when I got out of the Air Force, I was stationed at Travis Air Force Base in Northern California. So when I got out of the Air Force, I hung in Oakland with my East Oakland, and I used to jam with these guys. I couldn't play. I bought a flute. I couldn't play a lick, but I would be there jamming with these guys, and that's when I really discovered Miles Davis. And I would buy anything by Miles. I'd go to San Francisco and see Miles at the Jazz Workshop or any of the clubs there. And then one time I was in Boston at a club called the Sugar Shack. And who comes backstage after the show? Miles Dewey Davis. Oh my gosh. I was in heaven.
This was after one of your shows?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
that's great.
yes. And he was giving the support. You should have more instruments. You should be playing this and playing that. He was right. Because Miles his bands are always full.
Yeah.
And then we brought out the cognac.
Okay.
And Miles went, yeah. He said, well, let me bring this out. He brought out the blow.
Wow.
so we was cognacing and blowing. I was in heaven because he was telling us some experiences. And then Miles, I'm trying to be as tactful as I can, but there was a girl who sang with us, and he kind of had the hots for her. And so I kind of, blocked.
Yeah, protection.
So after we did the little cognac and the little blow thing, okay, man, it was nice meeting you, blah, 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 blah. We go back to the hotel. I'm going to my room, and who's 2 doors down? It's Miles.
Uh-oh.
And the girl is with me, and Miles is down there.
Oh, Lord.
I had to protect her.
Of course.
Oh, you're
Be a
right.
gentleman.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but that was just my Miles story.
Oh.
I got another story, but I'll tell you at another time.
Oh, come on,
No,
Harry.
you can't do that, Harry.
Well, no, we
Full
did the show with
disclosure.
Pat Boone
There you go.
Okay.
In Lawton, Oklahoma. So they were remodeling. So we went to do a sound check, and you step on the stage, and there's what do you call those thin boards, plywood,
Mm-hmm.
and you're walking and you're going like this. Damn, what is this? And they hadn't finished the stage,
Mm.
so we're doing a sound check, and you go,
Wow.
because the stage is
Oh my God.
bouncing.
Yeah.
So we did our little show. We went on, and I hadn't met Pat, so we did the show. And after the show, the kids ran over to see us, and the old folks stayed to see Pat. But the dressing room was surrounded by kids, and we're in Lawton, Oklahoma. So the cops said, "Well, I don't know what you're gonna do, but y'all just follow me, and we'll get out of here." Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, we got out of that. We ran out of the dressing room. It was in the gymnasium. We ran out of there, and we're running, not real fast, but you're running. The kids are behind us. What do? We run into a 6-foot ditch.
Oh.
Put mud and up the air. We were laughing, and the kids pulled us out of the brink. It was just sloppy, messing our uniforms and stuff. Oh, but that was my story. So I saw Pat a few weeks ago at an affair, and I told him, every time I see him, I tell him about that story.
Yeah.
But that's my Pat Boone story.
That's awesome. So when kids discover you on YouTube or online, kids the music is brand new to them, right? So what do they tend to say to you?
Well, a lot of Grazing and those songs are 50 years old, at least 50 years old. So these kids, Raven Simone did Grazing in the Grass. She did a nice job on it.
Really?
And yeah, you try to check it out. Yeah, and. But the kids, I see little kids this high singing Grazing in the Grass, So evidently it left some sort of an impression, for all these years. And I still get a little royalty check, I get a little something. If not, I'd be working for Fritz. But,
yeah.
But yeah,
that'd be a thin retirement if
you
you start working for me. Let me ask you a question, only because this is fresh in my memory from having heard, recently I watched the Rat Pack making of Ocean's 11, and they talked about what Sammy Davis had to go through in Vegas until Frank Sinatra busted the doors open. And then I heard Smokey Robinson talking about the bus tours with all the Motown bands having to do the Chitlin circuit and the threats that they had to undergo. Did you, in your touring, experience any of the awful racism that happened in the South and all the heartbreaking situations that black acts had to go through at that point in the 60s?
Well, fortunately, we didn't. And I think it was the timing. The atmosphere was kind of right during that period. I'm talking, those certain years, and there was always some bullshit going on. Like one time, we're doing this concert at Ole Miss with Roberta Flack. So, actually, that was kind of touch and go, because some of the kids, it was two black acts, but they wanted us to go with them, and some wanted us to go with Roberta Flack, after parties and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I said, well, I'm going with these guys over here. And all of them had a half a pint of whiskey bottles in their back pocket, So, but I went with those guys. And I walked into this hall or whatever it was. And the first thing I see is a Confederate flag about 12 by 12. Oh, wow. I said, oh, shit, what the hell? But those guys turned out to be the coolest. We drank and had fun and had a good time. And but other than that, now with Ray Charles, there was a little funny stuff came on. One time the cop came on the bus, and the white people on this bus, we had a guitar player named Donald Peake. He was white, Jewish cat. And Don had his guitar in front of him. And he said, what about him? He asked Ray, what about him? Ray said, oh, he's Mexican.
Wow.
But that was the only, and then there were a couple of riots when we were with Ray that we had to get out of Dodge. They were throwing bricks and bottles at the bus. We had to get the hell out of there.
Wow.
But other
Well,
than
you
that,
know, and
it was-
Friends
it
was a
pretty cool.
crossover act. I mean, you were in the top 5 on both pop and R&B charts, and so you probably had a larger white audience than many R&B acts would have, and maybe
You're right.
slight-
You're right. Yep.
Yeah, but you have to travel all over the country, and you're kind of adrift. All you have is your bus, and if they don't let you into a hotel or they don't let you have go into a restaurant,
It's so weird.
Now we didn't have that. I mean, it was there. Now maybe because Ray had been on the road so long, you know, open doors and stuff. Now with the Friends of Distinction, I can't remember anything like, you know, a problem like that. I remember doing a concert somewhere down in Texas, and a guy who had went to Vietnam, and he came back to the concert, and his girlfriend was just this guy. It blew him away, and we got out of Dodge a little bit.
Oh my!
Packed that bus and got the hell out of Dodge.
Whoa, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we have to end on something a little bit more upbeat than that, Fritz.
No,
Upbeat.
this whole thing has been upbeat. I'm so, you know, Harry's had an amazing history in music. It's such a treat to talk to him. I love the old stories and how members of the original Wi-Fi's branched out and started these other groups. It's all another piece in the history of American music. I just love learning that new
Yeah,
stuff.
and now there's Wi-Fi in every home and Starbucks. Harry, it's just a joy to have you with us. Is there anything you would like us to promote on your behalf or mention while you're here with us that people can check out?
Well, not really. I am in retirement. I hung it up in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I did a tour over in the Philippines, and I was just tired, you know, because see, people don't realize when you have a group, when you get new people, you gotta audition them. You got to train them.
Mm-hmm.
You got to pay them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that was getting old.
Yeah, the way they keep wanting a paycheck, I just kids.
And you know, after a certain age, the road will wear you out.
Oh my gosh.
You know.
Yeah.
It's a harrowing
I mean,
experience.
the road is so much different than it was. But you know that back in the day, we get on a plane and we smoke a pipe, bring our own alcohol. And have them open the door for if the plane is fixing to take off. Hey, my friend, just hold the plane. They open the door, you run on the plane.
Oh yeah, no more. Now you'd be tackled by the what is it?
No,
you wouldn't get that far.
No, if you're a C, you have to get in the C line, and then it's going to be a while. You're going to have a middle seat.
Thank you, Harry. What a treat to talk to you. Stay healthy, my friend. It was,
All right, Harry,
it was great.
It was a pleasure. Here come our closing credits. We would love for you to join us online on Instagram and Twitter, where we are at Media Path Pod, and on Facebook, where we are Media Path Podcast. You can find full episodes with all kinds of bonus visual content on our YouTube channel, Media Path Podcast. We would love to know what media you've been enjoying. You can contact us at our social media or write to us at mediapathpodcast@gmail.com. We want to thank our guest, Harry Elston. Our team includes Dina Friedman, Francesco Demanda, John Maddox, Sharon Bellio, Bill Filipiak, Thomas Hubble, and you. Our theme music is by me and John Maddox. I am Louise Palanker here with Fritz Coleman, and we will see you along the Media Path. Fritz has one more thing to tell you.
And listen, if you enjoyed this episode of Media Path, and we know you did, it would help us to be more discoverable by potential new listeners if you leave us a quick review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're new here and this is your first time with us, please check out our back catalog. You may find some real binge-worthy stuff in there. We've had Diane Warren, recently Oscar nominated. We had Tony Dow from Leave It to Beaver, Bill Mooney, who's been all over television at its inception. We had Harry. We've had all kinds of great people on here. Gary Puckett, the Cowsills, people who were part of your early life. So we're going back to the very beginning. You'll hear exciting and exclusive interviews with Henry Winkler, Keith Morrison. Thank you for spending an hour with us, and we would be overjoyed if you took a moment to share your thoughts with us or recommend us to a friend. Be safe. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
Thank you, Harry. You were wonderful.
No problem. We'll talk again.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see you in person soon.
All right.